From the John DeVita Broadcast Center, welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another broadcast of Armchair Experts with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network. And now, here is Jim and Rich.
Rich, wake up. I know that music makes you nod off. Come on.
I was going to say, can't we get something more contemporary, like, with lyrics like, I grabbed my old lady by the hair and pulled her out of the house. And
No,
I shot them all. No, we can't get anything like that.
Just remember,
get something very contemporary.
Just remember the problems we had when you heard that during a basketball game and you went on a rant. And we had to re-edit something.
That's right, we did.
We had to re-edit it for TV, so let's just...
well, I'm in a good mood today, so we don't have to worry about any re-editing. Unless you get me worked up.
Oh, well, let me see what I can do then. Leon and Massaro, another all-star edition of the Armchair Experts, ranting and raving about whatever comes to our mind. And yesterday we had what we laughingly referred to as show prep, and today we still have no idea what we're planning on talking about.
Yeah, what are we going to talk about?
I don't know.
The Cubs are really look like they're really serious about having Javi Baez as their second baseman now.
I'm wondering if we're going to see him come north or if we're going to give him a little time down in AAA playing second base, and then when they can find a deal and move Darwin Barney, we see him up at second.
Well, wouldn't it be better if we actually, think about the strategy part
I
think
you're going to keep Bonifacio because he's versatile and can play all the infield positions.
But don't you think instead of showing your hand and saying Baez could play second base and reducing Barney's value to nothing, wouldn't you rather just say Barney's the second baseman, he's our second baseman, he's got more value to us than it would be if you move Baez in? This is the Cubs we're talking about.
Yeah, okay, fine.
This is Cubs strategy.
Yeah, but let's face it. Everybody out there has already figured out that Baez is going to be a piece of this Cub team.
I didn't figure
sometime.
That out yet.
Oh, well,
only you and Sports Jimmy are the only ones who figure this out.
Well,
so
John
far.
knew.
John knows too.
John knows that.
Right.
John knows everything. So, how are you this morning, Mr. DeVita? You good?
I am. No, not really.
All right. Well, are you above average?
I'm very upset.
This is going to be good, John.
The reason why I am upset is because the sun is shining and it's not snowing out.
Poor guy.
But I noticed you've got the Christmas decorations in, except for that one lonely candy cane.
Yeah, the one lonely candy cane is still frozen in the ground yet.
Oh, okay.
When I came home from the studios yesterday, I took all this stuff down.
I know. I was impressed with the fact that I almost walked past the house. I didn't know where you were anymore.
So when are we finally going to get Sports Jimmy on the show with us?
I don't know. I think I think we need to do that remote over at Fanny and Schmoes.
No doubt about it.
I think we need to do that. We got to get a date. We got to get a date set for that after tax season is over. If you can confirm that with Stephanie, I don't want to use the term you did during the game.
I knew you were going to bring that up.
About pinning her down. I don't want to.
Everybody, don't listen to what Jim's saying. Please.
I don't want to get into trouble with that because certainly I don't get into trouble the way you get into trouble.
You better believe that. You always prompt me into getting into trouble.
I know.
You're the one who primes the pump. Then I say the words and you get in trouble. I get in trouble.
There are enough times when you just go off on your own.
Okay.
All right. So what do we want to begin with today? We want to talk NCAA basketball. We want to talk football. We've started a little bit on the Cubs. You want to continue on with that?
No. I mean, does football ever end with you?
All right. Thanks for stopping by.
Okay. We could talk about the Cubs. What about them?
What else did you have? I think I think they're going to deal Barney, and I wouldn't be surprised if it happens by the end of the camp.
Yeah, it pretty much looks that way.
You know.
Because you're in love with this Bonifacio, and I know you and Theo are texting back and forth every day to
My guy.
your guy
My guy.
Theo, and you're
My
telling
guy,
him, hey,
Emilio."
let's keep Bonifacio and put him wherever. He's a superstar.
Now, what do you think about the issue, or about the way Mike Holt has played? You think
I'll
he has
tell
a
you,
chance to come north?
Yeah, well, you know what? They need power in the lineup.
Yeah.
Jim. So, I mean, because the only who the heck did they have? Rizzo supposedly might give us some punch, and
Sure,
but
Holt actually had a decent season last year.
he did. But I wouldn't. You know what, Jim?
You
I wouldn't
wouldn't
expect
count
that
on him.
again. No, you
No.
can't count on that. That's
No.
not been his track record. And you know, when you look at different Major League Baseball players through the years and their careers. There's a lot of them who will have 1 or 2, 3 years. If you look at their entire career, you'll say, "Wow, where did those things come from?" Mm-hmm. And Schierholtz might have
Brady
just
Anderson.
had Brady Anderson is
It came from
that wouldn't be.
That came,
but I
came from a bottle.
yeah, I would use a more legitimate types of examples. But I'm thinking Schierholtz had a really good year, but I wouldn't. And again, I wouldn't count on him for power. I think they're going to need power. Mike Holt is likely to come. My feeling he's likely to come north with the team. Hopefully, provide some of that. He had a good weekend last weekend. I think it was when they played Seattle.
Yeah.
He had a couple home runs. He's got 3 home runs in the spring. Last time I looked, which is good considering he had a slow start. And I think
the
it's
light air in Arizona. We don't know what it's going to translate to when he comes north. He loses his tan and hits 212.
Well, that's all right. We've had a lot of guys do that too over the years.
See Gary Scott.
That wouldn't be anything new, but
Yeah.
let's see. You never know.
And I think if he does, that also gives another opportunity for Valbuena, because he's also is another one that can play any position in the infield.
Yeah.
I mean, they used him at first last year, and if Rizzo,
Did you check on that? Are
I
you
believe
sure?
they did.
Okay.
I believe they did. I believe I actually even watched that game.
Oh, all right. Then we have proof positive.
I
that,
have,
You know.
as well as my memory is at this point. You mentioned something about the Sox yesterday, and I'll admit I haven't been keeping up that much with them this spring. You said Davidson's going to go down?
That's what the article I read said, but now it looks like if you look real quick, and I looked really quick at the paper today before you walked in, and now it seems that they're saying that Davidson might have had a little flurry of success there, and maybe everything has changed back again, so maybe he'll be back. I don't know. You got to go. It's more the other way.
No.
You got to go the other way in the paper.
Okay.
But I'm thinking, Jim, as long as you're going through the paper, I would.
Hotter bat boosts spirits of third base Hope Davidson.
Yeah. Now, other than the last time, and I think the last time we did the show, we talked about Abreu, and since then I haven't heard much about him.
No, I haven't either.
Now, have you checked up on him? Is he doing anything?
I haven't looked at the. Paper. I haven't listened to any games, and this time of season, I don't really have the radio on during the day.
Sometimes I wonder why in this town right now we're even talking about baseball, because I think so many people are just indifferent about it.
This really is one of the first seasons within memories. I don't think anybody gives the proverbial rat's hoo-ha about baseball.
Yeah.
This year, I've never seen such apathy. When you've got the Cubs that may go out and lose 97, 98 ball games again this year. The Sox, I find interesting the way that they rebuilt, and the fact that Rick Hahn was really kind of able to do this on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
And put together a team that, at least on paper, looks interesting.
Yeah, I think on paper it does definitely look interesting. But when I saw the other day that Davidson was sort of struggling and might not even make it north with the team, or east, I guess you would say, with the team, and then not hearing much about Abreu's progress, I'm thinking, well, is this whole thing going to go down in flames, at least for this year? Now, Eaton, I think, seems to be performing as expected, and that's one of your other additions, but I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen on the corners.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Are we going to have Paul Konerko at third and Adam Dunn at first? With
Yeesh.
Jeff Keppinger in the DH spot? Or what are we going to do there?
Oh,
Hey, I'd like to see that lineup.
you're good. You know, Sox fans have a tendency to stay away when they don't like what's on the field. That will ensure it.
Yeah, that would ensure it is right.
That would ensure it.
Yeah.
You know.
No, I don't know. I mean, I think that it's a crapshoot. I think I wouldn't be surprised at what either of the teams did. I mean, good or bad, Jim.
Yeah. No. This is one of those years where, just like I said with the Bears last year, I'm going to come in with no preconceived notions. I'm just going to sit back and
See what happens.
see what
then
happens.
you won't be disappointed.
I won't be disappointed.
How about though? You mentioned football. I know you always like to talk football. What's on? How did you like?
What?
We haven't met since all these signings.
Well,
Have
I
we?
mean, we texted back and forth a few times. We talked about some of the things. I mean, the two main signings, free agent signings, Lamar Houston. Mm-hmm. Now,
Any relation to Sissy Houston?
I don't know. I think you should ask and find
Yeah.
out.
Well,
Find out,
okay.
shit.
I gotta find. I gotta
You know,
Google that or something.
You
right?
need to maybe, now that you've taken those first tentative steps into the Facebook world, maybe we better get you into the Twitter world so you can.
Nah,
you
I
can
don't. I
follow-
don't want to. I don't want to be with the twits.
you can follow him. Nothing like a set of big twits. I always say.
Whoa! Look out!
Twits. That was twits, Kevin. Pay attention. Twits.
Oh, we're going there this morning.
Yeah,
huh?
I know.
Okay.
But I think it was a good signing. I don't think he's a flashy player, but there's one thing that he's effective at, and effective at controlling the run. And a lot of people were able to run on that Bear defense. A lot of people who had no running game all season came into Chicago, and suddenly, boom, we got a running game.
Well, and I think that's huge because I think regardless of what the state of professional football or football in general is, and I'm talking about the really love affair with the forward pass, it all starts up front. And if you can run on a team, that's really the simplest way to do things. And we got torn up big time last year.
Oh, man. Who was it that came in and didn't do anything? Their team. Oh, Rice with Baltimore.
Was it Baltimore?
Well, that was one that I can think of. That's the first name comes to my mind.
Well,
He
I
came
thought,
in and ran for 150, 160 yards against that
I
Bear
thought
defense.
Detroit had a really sickly ground game, and I thought
And
they
they-
might have come in and done.
and I think
had a
that-
bang up game against us on the ground as
I
well.
think they were the other one.
Yeah. Yeah, Houston. You know what? I think there's not a whole lot of big splash type of players free agent wise this year. Mm-hmm. But I think with this quantity that we're signing, I think we're going to get some decent quality as well. And I think they're doing what they have to do. I mean, with the salary cap, there's only so much they can do. You know what? Are you going to go out and spend a lot of money on a guy like Bird from Buffalo, who, to me, that sounds like he was the biggest name in this free agent season, and I'm not even so sure how good he really is. I mean, I'm sure he's good, but is he worth breaking the bank over? And I think if that's their philosophy, the guys who are going to get the big money aren't really worth that much in our situation. Let's go for some guys who are less costly but can fill some holes for us. I think that's a good strategy.
I think it is too, and I think a lot of people may be criticizing the other signing of the Ryan Mundy. Mm-hmm. But I think a lot of people view, well, if you sign anyone, you sign whoever you want, just as long as his name isn't Chris Conte.
Yeah, well, but the guy who is going to end up out of there is Major Wright.
Is
right?
Major Wright, yeah. Now they signed they signed another defensive back who played for the Packers, Jennings.
Yeah. When you
I don't know that much about him. I'll admit that I don't know that much about him.
when you mentioned Conte too, Jim, I what little I read about this, it does make you realize that whoever calls the shots for these things these days in professional sports, in the professional sports other than baseball, which has no salary cap, but in football
But they have a luxury tax. So
they have a luxury tax.
Kind of a-
But in football, one of the big things for keeping Conti was that they still have some control over him because of I don't know how many years is it that they have basically control over a player before he can become a free agent. And I think that's part of the reasoning in keeping Conti. And plus they think he's still got an upside. And but I guess my point would be, as the person who calls the shots in this case in football, you have to take a lot of different things into consideration. It's not just a matter of saying, well, we don't think player X did the job for us, so we're going to get rid of him. Mm-hmm. Well, no, you know what? This player's still young. We have control of him for a certain number of years, and you know what? We're going to let him fulfill the length of his contract and see how it works out.
What did you think of, speaking of again, talking on that same line as far as value, I understand the purpose of letting Julius Peppers go.
Right, okay.
It's a numbers game.
Yeah.
It's a numbers game. Whether he's still effective at age 34 is the big question. 7.5 sacks last year, and you hear people say, well, he was double-teamed constantly last year. Well, I've heard other people say, you go back and look at the films and look at the tapes. He wasn't double-teamed that much. Is it a question of age? Yeah, maybe it is. And I think, honestly, the contract that the Packers signed him to, which was $30 million with $7.5 guaranteed, was a pretty smart deal. Because it's going to be, you come here for a year, we'll see how it goes. Because only $7.5 million of it is guaranteed. If it doesn't work at the end of the year, thanks for playing.
Well, I texted you, and the gist of my text was, I like Julius Peppers on the Bears. I like the way he played. I like him even more now because I like the fact he signed with the Packers. Because as I told you in the text, and we talked a little bit about this yesterday. One thing I can't stand.
That was our show prep. Yes.
One thing I cannot stand is that when these guys get traded or they get bounced out of a city, I'm a professional. I'm just going to move on. Now, you know what? Peppers hasn't said anything, but the fact that he signed with the Bears' biggest rival says, you know what? I'm going to stick it to you, and I like that attitude because you know what? They're professionals, but they're also human beings. And if you feel now, and you know what? He may, on a intellectual level, understand totally. That this is what happens. But you know what? I don't care what anybody says. On a personal, emotional level, you're like, oh, no, you guys just booted my butt out of town, and guess what? I want back at you 2 times this next year. And I like that thinking. I like that thinking.
And I think somebody put it the other day that I heard, they said the effectiveness or how well that signing can harm the Bears is going to depend on when the Bears and the Packers get together on the schedule-wise. Week two, Peppers has a big game against the Bears. That may not mean as much because you still have a bunch of the season left. Second game of the season. Week 13, Week 14, Week 15, Week 16, Game 16 rather. Peppers has a big game. It could have playoff implications. If he has a big game and hurts the Bears, then everybody's going to be going berserk on sports radio.
Well,
and the meatballs will be out.
I think there's going to be a big difference, though, Jim. The big difference with the Bears, I understand the Bears rotate their defensive linemen like a lot of teams do.
Right.
But if you got down to numbers, I'm sure that even though he's rotated in and out, Julius Peppers, for the money he's making and the type of player that he's known to be, he's probably taken 70 to 80% of the snaps. Okay, in Green Bay, he's still going to make good money. But my feeling is he also is going to be rotated. But I think you might also they may also get the benefit of being able to play a fresher Julius Peppers because I don't think he's going to get 70, 80% of the defensive snaps.
I was just about to say, if he gets 60, 65% of the snaps, I think that'll be a lot.
Yeah, I think that would be a whole lot. They may even save him to say, they may spot him in. You might be talking about half the time, but they're looking. I would say this, that even at 34, a fresh Julius Peppers probably could be pretty effective, especially if you put, depending on who he's playing with, who he's playing against. how good he feels. I think that's going to have a lot to do with it.
Interesting to look at who's still out on the market right now, because you've had some, you've had some people that were signed already that were some of the names in there. I mean, you had Brandon Albert signed, Aqib Talib and Darrell Rivas both signed. Eric Decker, I think that one kind of surprised me a little bit that he left Denver to go to the Jets.
Yeah,
with the quarterback situation there.
Okay,
that one surprised me. Golden Tate left Seattle and went to Detroit. Steve Smith signed with the Ravens after being released by Carolina, and I guess all the Carolina meatballs went berserk when that happened.
Yeah, I don't know what anybody's going to berserk about anything anymore.
I don't understand that.
This has become such a numbers game that it's not. Put it this way: talent is part of the whole equation, but it's not the whole thing anymore. I think years ago it was strictly talent. You dealt, or a team signed a guy for his talent, or they dealt for a guy for his talent. They gave talent for talent. It's not that way anymore. Mm-hmm. It's when you talk about Decker going from Denver to New York, the first thing that pops into my mind is, well, not everybody makes a smart decision. Sure. Look what the guy that the Jets just released, was it Santonio Holmes or Santana Moss? One of the two.
Santonio Holmes.
I get those guys mixed up.
Moss. Santana Moss was with the Redskins. I still think he is. It was Santonio Holmes.
Okay, Santonio.
The guy who shot himself.
He gets released by the Jets. And I'm thinking that he came from a situation where he was a pretty much of a premier receiver, and he gets into this whole morass of a situation offensively with the Jets, and they cut him loose. I mean, Decker is going to walk into that situation, and he's going to have the money in his hand, but is he going to have, is he going to be able to repeat that act for the money? Because I don't know. Is he going to catch any passes or as many passes as he wants?
That's the question, unless he views it as there is upside with a young quarterback there that's developing with Geno Smith. Because Mark Sanchez is gone, I guess.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It seems.
I saw something that somebody was considering him, and I can't remember who it was. I think I saw some item yesterday. Somebody's considering Sanchez as a backup.
Well, think about this, Jim. That would be a worthwhile guy to look at, because my feeling, looking at the Jets, Sanchez, because my feeling, just looking at what's going on with the Jets is, all right, when the Jets brought Tebow in to compete with Sanchez, backup Sanchez, I started to think to myself, and I know that they've fired that GM since that time,
right,
but I'm starting to think, was there a power struggle between Rex Ryan and the GM that Ryan obviously ended up winning? But, did the GM bring Tebow in to try to mess with Ryan? And I think, I get, just looking from the outside in, that there's so many internal things going on with the Jets. I'm not going to lay a lot of things on Mark Sanchez. I think Mark Sanchez has probably got a big upside, and I think he got caught in a bad situation. We just talked the other day when we did the show prep about guys
you keep calling it show prep.
Well,
I'll
whatever.
believe it.
You're the one who texted me and said, let's do the show prep. So
I just wanted a cup of coffee.
We just talked about Jimmer Fredette coming over from Sacramento to the Bulls,
right,
and his comments in the paper were, you know what, basically the situation in Sacramento is messy. It's not what it's not what I've been used to. And even if I come to the Bulls, whatever way they choose to use me, it'll be a more healthy situation. So when you talk about Mark Sanchez having been his whole professional life with the Jets, which I'm looking at right now as a very dysfunctional organization, and again, from the outside looking in, that's my impression. I could be wrong, but I don't think I am. Why are we blaming Mark Sanchez? I don't know that he's, obviously he's probably made his own errors on the field, but I don't know that he's been in the best atmosphere or the best
I
situation.
don't think it was a good atmosphere for him. I don't think it was a good situation for him. So it'll be interesting to see where he winds up. Other receivers that were signed, Hakeem Nicks, who's been a huge disappointment the last couple of years, left the Giants and signed with the Colts. Brandon LaFell left Carolina and went to the Patriots, and Emmanuel Sanders left Pittsburgh and headed for Denver. Now, the Panthers also lost Ted Ginn, who went to Arizona, and Dominic Hickson, who came to the Bears. And actually, I kind of like that signing because it's a good, effective third option for the Bears. And I think you're going to see Hickson. Wouldn't be surprised if you see Hickson return kicks.
I can hardly wait.
I can tell. I can see the excitement all over your face.
Hey, by the way, did I tell you why the heck did the Bears let Devin Hester go and sign Jay Cutler to a long-term contract?
There's meatball-y goodness going on here. And did you see that quote that Hester came out with yesterday?
No.
No, Coach Trestman told me he wanted me to be a receiver, but I said I'd rather concentrate on kicks, kickoff returns, and punt returns.
Oh God.
Yeah, Devin, I'd like you to concentrate on being a receiver. Said no, Coach, never.
Yeah. Speaking about seasons,
And I think speaking about seasons, the other quote that I think everybody got a laugh out of was he tweeted after he was released. I just went back and watched videos of me from 2007 and 2008. I can't believe they let me go. Okay, Devin.
No comments on those.
Climb into the Wayback Machine, Devin. Let's go back and look at you 7 years ago and look at you now.
Yeah. Okay.
Oh, my God.
Let me ask you this. Now, he's not signed yet with.
No.
He hasn't signed with the Bucks yet.
You don't hear anything about him.
No.
Because
I'm wondering if he's ever going to break that record.
I think it's. Did I hear something that Kansas City might be looking at him?
Yeah. Well, I don't.
That
I
could
don't
be
know if
an
they've
interesting
had any good
pick.
Kick returner since Nolan the Flea Smith.
Oh man.
Yeah, you really think that's a blast from the past, isn't it?
Man, talk about climbing into the Wayback Machine.
Yeah, you got that right.
Jeez. So he's. I just thought that was. I expect if you listen to Bors and Bernstein on Thursday at 5, you're going to hear Devin Hester's.
Hey, you know what, John? I got an idea. I think we should promote a new show. I think we should get Sports Jimmy in here and give him his own show. John says could be my guest.
Okay.
I can fall asleep to that show just as well as I can to this one. He says.
We'll call it the meatball hour.
Oh man.
It's kind of interesting too because there's still a lot of people out there, and at least here's one view of the top 10. You think Jared Allen is still worth it?
Well, if Julius Peppers is worth it, I'm sure Jared Allen's worth it.
And I mean, considering the contract that Peppers at 34 got from Green Bay, and that DeMarcus Ware, who's going to be 32, got. There's a market for him.
Our buddy, for DeMarcus Ware?
No, for Jared Allen.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Jared Allen. Yeah, you know Pat Sharf Jr., right?
Yeah, sure.
That's the guy who sent Pat Sharf up the wall. Pat will, once in a while when I run into talk to Pat, the talk always gets around to football, and I'll say, I watch the Vikings, and he goes, Jared Allen doesn't wear any pads in his pants. He goes, what is this, becoming touch football? How can you play football without any pads in your pants?
He's a tough guy.
He's got to be. I'll tell you, if you ever get a helmet right into the thigh, that doesn't tickle. That'll leave a nice big mark on you.
Or turn you into a boy soprano.
You don't want that either.
You don't want that one either. Dominic Rogers-Cromartie is still out there and available.
Yeah, you're big into those guys with like the three names:
Yeah.
Dominic, Rogers, Cromartie,
Yeah.
Ha
Clinton
whatever
Nix.
his name is,
Yeah,
Clinton Nix or
yeah,
whatever.
I like those. I like
You know
those
what?
hyphenates.
I'll tell you what. If the Bears, I'm going to tell you this right now. If the Bears draft that guy,
Clinton Nix.
Clinton Nix, when football season comes, you could talk to yourself because I'm not talking about Clinton Nix.
Well, we can use his.
Or whatever
We'll
his name
use
is.
his real name.
What is it?
I forgot now.
He?
Hyleel or something like
Hyleel.
that.
Okay.
Became a nickname.
Yeah. Okay.
Or we'll call him, if it makes you feel better, we'll call him Boo Boo.
Okay.
Something like that. If it, oh, but wait a minute. That'll be a hyphenated name. You won't like that.
I won't like it much at all.
You won't like that.
I don't like those names.
Yeah. What do you think of Henry Melton's possibilities out there in the market? I think his, contracts, large contracts just don't seem to follow guys that have season-ending injuries.
Yeah, but you know what? I like defensive linemen who get into bar brawls. That's a good sign. Do you remember when the I think it was the Saints or the Rams? I think he played for both teams. But what Kyle Turley, who was not a defensive lineman, an offensive lineman, they were going to send him to anger management classes, and I'm thinking to myself, okay, you got a professional football player, a lineman, and you're sending him to anger management. I'm thinking anger is a good part of the game. I mean, if you know how to use it. But Henry Melton.
I think, yeah.
I'm sure he'll have good interest. He's an excellent athlete, as they say.
He's visited a few teams.
Okay.
But he hasn't gotten any contract offers yet. I know he's been out there visiting. Let's see, who else might be interesting? James Jones, Packers' second leading receiver last year.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. No Sean Moreno. Now, the market for running backs isn't very good, but he wound up, he kind of emerged last year. I don't know what it's going to be out there for him, but, running is still important no matter what. Jermichael Finley's also available.
I don't trust
But
guys
he's coming.
I don't trust guys who emerge. Okay, they either are good from the beginning or
You don't like
I don't
late-
like emerging guys.
You don't like late bloomers. Take a break, and we'll be right back.
And you are listening to Armchair Experts on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network from the John Navita Broadcast Center. And now, back to Jim and Rich.
The station was broken. John put it back together. We're ready to go.
I tell you, what would we do without John?
I don't know. We wouldn't. We'd be lost. We'd be sitting over at Mariano's right now talking to ourselves.
Yeah, that's true.
You know.
But now we get to talk on the radio.
Yeah, I know.
What else do you know? What's going on in Chicago other than the Bears and free agency and all? You're throwing out a lot of names there, buddy.
How about some others? Just finishing off some of these things. Some that are left. Maurice Jones-Drew is out there available.
You did that on purpose, didn't you?
Yes, I wanted to get that hyphenated
Maurice
name.
Jones-Drew.
I wanted to get another hyphenated name in there just to do it. Michael Vick, is anybody going to think he's going to stay healthy? Kenny Britt?
Why would you hire Michael Vick anyway?
I know.
mean, hire him, sign him, whatever.
Sign him no matter what. Why would you do something like that?
There is a man. See, that's what I love, John. When they talk about why this guy is a great athlete. You know what? How many great athletes can't play the sport that they're in?
playing?
It's unbelievable.
He's a great athlete. I'd rather have a great football player.
Yeah, that sounds like the coach, and the coach.
That's
You know what?
right.
The coach is right on about that.
That's right. That's right. Well, let's see. What should we talk about? Let's talk about the NCAA tournament.
See, you know what? He actually, John, did show prep, and he didn't let me know about it. So now he's got all of these papers in front of him with all of this stuff.
Well, actually, all right. I'll give you this one. We'll do this one
don't
quickly.
give me that one.
Ticket City came out with their biannual ranking. Wait a minute. There was a hyphenated word. You don't like that. Of the most engaged Major League Baseball fan bases, and it's based on an algorithm. That's a mathematical thing. I'll just let you know that. Designed to identify the fan bases that engage most frequently with their team, both online and offline. Who do you think is the most engaged fan base?
Most engaged fan base is, it's not the Dodgers. I know.
By
that.
the way, they're number 3.
Oh my gosh, that they were always known for not being that engaged.
Well, you're talking about the factors here that they talk about: average attendance, all games, average home attendance, average home ticket price, percentage of stadium capacity filled at home games. Now you also have the social media thing involving with Facebook and Twitter. How many people like them on Facebook, talk about them on Facebook, and how many people follow them on Twitter.
I'll throw out. I'll say the Cubs. I'll say the Yankees. I'll
Cubs,
say the Indians.
Cubs number 9.
Okay.
Yankees number 2. You said Cleveland Indians.
Yeah.
Number 29.
Oh, okay. Number 29. I thought they would be good. So I was close with the Yankees. Who's number 1?
The San Francisco Giants.
See, I would never pick them.
I
in a
never
million
would have
years.
thought that. I would have thought the Cardinals, who are number 4. Boston is number 5.
The deal with Boston would be a good, and the Cardinals. Those would
have been. I would have thought. Yeah. I would have thought in one order or the other. The Yankees, the Cardinals, the Red Sox, and the Cubs somewhere in that top 5. The Cubs are number 9, probably a couple of years ago before everybody started to get mad and get tired of this rebuilding process. You probably would have seen them higher.
See,
I just found that kind of an interesting.
I'm surprised at the Giants because it was always at least the theory, if you want to put it that way, was that the Giants were, being in San Francisco with the type of potential fan base that they had, the fact that you have a pretty moderate climate where people can get out and do outdoors things fairly easily, didn't really stand them in good stead in terms of having a really loyal fan base. If they were doing well, obviously they'd draw. If they were mediocre, they didn't draw well. So I'm surprised to see that they're number 1.
I am too, but then again, I started to think about this too as you're hearing it. What have they got that can be an attraction, very similar to what the Cubs have here? Is the park is kind of an attraction.
Okay.
You've got McCovey's Cove out there and the boats that sit out there in the cove each game waiting to see if a home run comes and lands in the water.
And now the stadium now is in a spot though where Candlestick was in a bad spot because it get really cold.
Yeah,
the stadium's in a better spot
in
as
a little
well,
bit. I think you still can have nights when it's cold out there, but I don't think you're going to have as big a problem as you had before, and I don't think you're going to have the wind issues that you had at Candlestick when that park opened.
Right.
You still remember the famous one when it opened when Stu Miller in the All-Star game got blown off the mound?
Yeah, that's what they say.
and got called for a balk.
Yeah. How about Jim? You were gonna go to the NCAA's though. What was going on with that?
Well,
you got a
tournament
favorite?
Tournament starts. Yeah, it's kind of interesting because I'm looking at glancing down at the experts, although they didn't ask us.
I wouldn't ask me either. I didn't even know who's in the tournament.
I don't know, but we've got a split as far as the 4 experts. Posting here, Herb Gold, Tony Giannetti, Seth Gruen, and Lamont Pope, writers in the Sun-Times. 2 of them like Florida, 2 of them like Michigan State. Now, Michigan State, the performance they put on over the weekend in the Big Ten title game, when they beat Michigan, who was the number 1 seed in the Big Ten in the Big Ten tournament, they beat Michigan State by 15, and in the process of beating them by 15, Michigan State missed 15 3-point shots.
Well, you know what, Jim? As you're saying this, I'm thinking I wouldn't even be able to make a pick. But I listen to Jim Kelly because Jim, a lot of times, he's very intuitive and smart on these things. And
Sports Jimmy didn't have an opinion on this.
I haven't talked to him about it. I don't even, not sure what his opinion would be. But Jim says, you know what? Don't ever bet against Louisville in a tournament like this. He likes Louisville. And Jim, not to say that Louisville couldn't get knocked out real quick in an upset or something, but Jim always says Louis. And you know what? It was funny that right prior to him coming in for coffee, we were talking about this, and I said, "Well, what about Louisville?" and it came to me. You know how things sort of just come to me, Jim. I mean,
Yeah, I know. That's usually when we get in trouble. I've heard when things come to you. That's what concerns me.
Yeah, it concerns everybody that they really actually knows me. So
Yeah, that's I've known you for over 50 years. That's what worries me.
yeah, that's I don't blame you for being worried. I'll tell you. Look at John's making the
John's
he's
making
giving
the
us
sign of the cross. Yeah, I know.
God bless. We're all going to have to go down to Divine Savior after the show and get down on our hands and get just our knees, not our hands and knees. But
Yeah.
and anyway,
Meanwhile,
so you think Michigan State is gonna do well? Are you gonna make a pick?
Yes, Michigan State.
All right, I'll go with Jim's pick and say Louisville.
Okay.
And then when we get about 2 games from the end,
You'll change and you'll say something else.
I knew that team was going to do good all the time.
Speaking of Louisville, they open
I
up.
picked Harvard right from the start.
They open up. They are the 4th seed in the Midwest, and they will open up against Manhattan, and then they will wind up with the winner. If they move on, they wind up with the winner of the St. Louis versus the play-in game, which is North Carolina State and Xavier. So
who's this, Jim?
that is Louisville.
Okay,
Louisville plays Manhattan in their opening game. And then if they win, they get the winner of St. Louis versus either North Carolina State or Xavier.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay.
that's it.
Yeah, you never know, though, because I would say St. Louis, Xavier, North Carolina State, over the years, they're not powers, but they're all teams that they can come up with decent teams at times.
It's interesting, too, and I heard this one mentioned. A lot of people say, well, who's the Cinderella team in the field this year?
Who are they saying?
Tony Giannetti likes Louisville. a 4 seed.
That's the Cinderella team?
That's her view for who the Cinderella team. Now, there's a couple of people, and I heard this too, North Dakota State, because it's one of those mid-major teams that is a veteran team, juniors and seniors, and they could surprise some people. The other one that I heard mention of was Stephen F. Austin, the same type of team that could drive some people crazy because they're going to get VCU in the opening round, and we'll see if Shaka Smart is as smart as
Shaka Zulu.
Or Shaka Zulu. I think that's who you referred to. In our show prep yesterday, I believe you referred to him as Shaka Zulu.
I couldn't think of what his name was. I knew it was Shaka, so I said, that guy from Virginia Commonwealth, Shaka Zulu. He said, no, it's Shaka Smart. I go, that's the guy.
Yeah, that's him.
Hey, but by the way, never knock Tony Giannetti on this show because she makes a mean brownie.
Does she?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
She really is a great person.
She's a nice person, is right.
She used to, I had a friend of mine used to live next door to her in Park Ridge.
Okay.
And, I mean, we used to, when I'd go to DePaul games, I used to see her a lot. And she was always a great person.
Yeah, I remember when, what's his name, Mariotti was ripping Joey Meyer apart. And
Didn't we
whether
all?
you like Joey or not.
Didn't we all?
But
I used to do it just for fun. At least he took it in good nature.
Then a couple of weeks after some of the more scathing columns, Tony Giannetti wrote a more balanced article about the whole thing, given the pros and the cons. And I saw her over at the Horizon, and I said, hey, Tony, that was really a great article, unlike your colleague. And she accepted the compliment graciously and handed me one of her great homemade brownies, and I was happy.
There you go. There you go. Was it that kind of brownie, or was it just a good chocolate brownie?
Just a chocolate brownie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right. I just wanted to see if there
I don't know where this guy's going. Not talk about a runaway train on this show, John.
See, I was
behaving
trying
myself, and Leon is
now
getting in trouble.
He's going to be looking at me going, I give you answers. You give me nothing but problems.
No, you're never going to give me. I'm never giving you answers, Jim.
No,
I give you answers all the time. You
know.
ask me these questions, I give you answers to every one of them.
You give me answers, and I just don't like the answers you give me. I think that's the problem. A lot of people think Florida is going to be the big team this year. A lot of people think Wichita State. A lot of people are scratching their heads going, how did Virginia get to be a number 1 seed?
Well, you know what, Jim? Though I knew Wichita State had a great season going, and I sort of had heard that Florida might have had a good season. But at the end of the day,
26 game winning streak right now with Florida.
See, the other thing though, when you go into a one and done tournament, do you really want to go in with a 26 or a 30-some game winning streak, because I'm a big believer in numbers.
Everybody's going to gun for you.
Well, the other thing is, at some point, I mean, it's been done. You can go through perfectly, but at some point, when you're on a roll, you're going to get that balloon's going to be popped. You're going to get beat. And I'm not so sure that going in with a big, long winning streak is the best way to go into the tournament.
Yeah.
You're a numbers guy. What do you think about that?
Tony Bennett is the head coach at Virginia. I was looking to say who's there now.
Tony Bennett?
Yeah, Anthony Benedetto.
Does he sing
I left my heart
in San Francisco before?
I left my heart in there. I think you know what I mean. If you're going to come in with a big long winning streak, everybody's going to be going after you. Everybody's going to be up for you. I don't think they're going to have a difficult time getting out of the first round, because obviously they're going to either be playing Albany or Mount St. Mary's.
Okay.
I don't think that's going to be a very difficult thing for them. Now you got Wichita State, who's 34-0, and they were kind of the surprise team last year, winding up in the Final Four, if I remember correctly.
Oh, okay. So they're actually. So everybody shouldn't be that surprised at how well they're doing then.
No.
Although every time you pick up the paper, it seems like the media is shocked that they're doing so well, even though they were a Final Four team.
Maybe it's just the fact that they still look at the Missouri Valley Conference and think, well,
honestly, Jim,
today, any conference that takes Loyola as a member can't be very good.
Today, I wouldn't be
surprised at anybody now.
I wouldn't downgrade any conference. Compared to, say, 20 years ago, when you look at the MAC, or you look at the Mountain West, or the Western Athletic Conference, or whatever they call it, those you get some pretty good teams that come out of those conferences.
I mean, when you look at the fact that you had a team, unless you followed Midwestern basketball closely, if you had a team like Butler make the Final Four, everybody else is going, who?
Yeah.
And, and they always had the tradition to be, oh, yes, all right, I'd love another cup of coffee, Mr. DeVita. Thank you very much. We don't get this, this is good service.
Thanks, Jen. I appreciate it.
John, thank you, my friend. By golly.
The other thing is, the so-called experts, I'll just say it right out, usually don't know exactly what they're looking at. They go on what somebody else tells them. This player's good, this team's good. I don't think they really know. Let's put it this way. I'll say for myself, I don't call myself an expert, but I don't know. If I saw Butler when they went to the finals those couple of years during the season, would I be able to tell that they had the potential to be that good? I doubt it. I don't know. I don't claim to know basketball that well. And these so-called experts are only really experts because they have the ability to write a column in a paper or get on TV and talk, be a talking head on radio or TV. But what do they really, how many times in a year would you actually be able to observe any of these teams?
Right.
I don't care if they're the big teams or the smaller teams that are in.
And I think the issue, too, and we certainly saw it a number of years ago as more and more teams started playing Division I basketball. And you had these, we were used to all those years when we were growing up and watching basketball. Well, the big conferences are the ACC and the Big Ten, and UCLA out in the Pac-8. Then, that was what you viewed, and then you had all these independent teams, all these independent powers, because Notre Dame was independent in those days, and DePaul, and all that other stuff. Georgetown. I don't even know before the Big East where Georgetown played, if they were even in a conference before the Big East.
Yeah, I don't know either.
St. John's was another one. You'd hear about the what did they call the 5 teams that played in Philadelphia?
I know. I don't know what they call them, but you're talking about Villanova,
St. Joe's, Penn.
Yeah,
and all that. That there was always that tradition. You had all these schools that started to play Division I basketball, and all these other conferences start to develop. So you had a lot of talent suddenly appear out there, where they might not have been, the 5-star talent that would get into the big schools, But all of a sudden, they're going to these other schools in these other conferences, maybe because they're close to home, and all of a sudden they're developing good basketball programs. So these mid-major conferences now have become a factor. So just like you said, you really cannot discount anybody on the basis of a conference now, because there's good basketball being played everywhere.
Yeah. You said something there that, there's certain buzzwords that get me thinking. And when you said 5-star talent, I wonder, has anybody ever done a survey or a study on 5-star talent and just how well that supposed 5-star talent ever pans out? I would really like to see that, because I hear about this guy's a 5-star player, that guy's a 5-star player, and I'll be darned.
I'm still trying to figure out what a 3-technique tackle is. So
Yeah. I'll be darned, Jim, if I could, where do these guys end up? Are they?
I don't follow. I don't follow that stuff, but I remember, years ago, you'd get I'd look at a recruiting letter and you'd start to see where, or recruiting newsletter, and you'd start to see where some of these guys go. I don't follow that anymore, but it would be interesting to start to look at whoever is rating these top 100 and see exactly where they wind up. Go the end of the end of April, when the McDonald's All-American game is going to be at the United Center.
Yeah,
and see where those 48 wind up.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. I was having a conversation with my son Tom on the phone, and what triggered it is that Sports Jimmy's nephew, Luke Durbin,
Sports Luke?
he was
Sports Luke
All-State for Maine South this year, and his brother, whose name I can't remember, had been All-State prior to that, 3 or 4 years prior to that. His brother, I don't think, has ever played college football. Jimmy was telling me that Luke has gotten no contact from any NCAA Division I programs. It's all been Division III. And so when I was talking to Tommy, I was saying, this kid is basically about the same height and weight as Tom. And I said, what, Tom, what this shows me is you went to Ridgewood. You know what? You had probably zero chance at any notoriety. This kid was at a high-profile program, good player. He's All-State. Reality is you're playing in NAIA Division I, which I would say is probably equivalent or maybe even a little bit better than Division III NCAA.
Yeah.
And I said, this kid's All-State, and he's getting only feelers from Division III. So what, in terms of football-wise, if you want to put it in a football pecking order, what good did that do him? And I'm not saying he's not a good football player. What I'm saying is you're a good football player who never had the chance to really get recognized because of where you were. And not that he's a bad football player, he's a good football player, but he got recognized because he was playing at Maine South.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the moral of the story is that's what happens with a lot of these kids. You're playing in a high-profile program, and you're playing maybe with other good players that are helping you out. And so you look very good, but how good really are you on your own? I guess that's what I would say.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's where, when they start to evaluate these kids as this guy's a 5-star or this guy's a Division I prospect, I think that's where some errors begin to be made, because they're playing with other strong players in high school. They're playing on strong teams, and it's hard. And you know what? The ability level is there, but that doesn't mean you're going to actually going to function at a high level at the next level.
You will go up to that next level. Yeah. Talking about functioning at levels here, that's kind of interesting as I'm just glancing at some of the teams that they view as peaking at the right time, talking about tournament-wise. Michigan State, they feel, is peaking right now, because this was one of those things this year where everybody was saying. Now, Michigan State wound up, 28-6 this year? 26-8 this year.
Okay.
But had some difficult times and lost to some teams that they shouldn't have lost to because of injuries. And everybody kept saying, wait until everybody's healthy on Michigan State. Now, all of a sudden, everybody's healthy, and they just really, I mean, everybody, when you went through the Big Ten tournament, you shut down Wisconsin and you shut down Michigan.
Yeah, those are good.
Those are good teams.
Good
now,
victories.
I mean, it's not exactly a cakewalk coming out of that, coming out of the East region when you've got teams like Virginia, Memphis, Cincinnati, North Carolina, Iowa State, UConn, and Villanova as your top 8.
I'm not totally not with it, but I'm not a super big fan of the idea of peaking. I don't know that if that was something that you could actually attain purposely, everybody would have an idea of how to do it, and that would really make things tough in a tournament or whatever else you want to talk about. But I would say that now. Did you tell me yesterday, Jim? Is Michigan State did they play the Big Ten tournament at Lucas Oil?
Yeah.
And is that where their first round game is going to be in the NCAA, or did I mishear you? No, it's not. Okay.
I don't know where their first round is.
Okay.
I don't
I
think
thought
it's there. And I don't know if this. I'll tell you in a second here. Why don't I just pay attention up here? No, they actually have to. They're in the Eastern region, and their first round game is Spokane, Washington.
They're in the East region, and they're
their
playing in Spokane, Washington.
Spokane, Washington is the site that feeds and is one of the sites that feed into the East region. The way they started doing this thing a few years ago, there's really no, geographical sense to it.
Do you remember Michael Jordan when the old stadium was about to be demolished? That he got down on the floor and kissed the floor.
The last game. Yeah.
And my
It was
impression,
an all-star game. I remember that.
my impression was that although he got used to it, he never really was a super big fan of the United Center.
No, they said the sight lines were terrible.
My point would be this, that one of the reasons that I don't buy, especially in a tournament like this NCAA, that I don't buy into the idea of peaking that well is that now what if the Spartans get to Spokane and for some reason they're not comfortable in the in the arena, or they're whatever. It just doesn't. It's too dark. I mean, I would go into a place. I want it to be light. Some places are too dark for me. I'm talking for me personally, but it just doesn't hit them right as a team. And it's not just the Spartans; it's anybody, or maybe it's the converse. This is the greatest place in the world, and we got the ideal opponents for us for the first round. That to me means more than what you did right before you jumped into the tournament, because tournaments are a lot. Now it's nice that the Big Ten and these other conferences have some type of a tournament because you get used to the idea of playing in the tournament a little bit. But it's almost, again, a little bit pointless for teams like Michigan State, Michigan, Wisconsin, who are going to make the NCAA anyway. I think it's more important in the conference tournament for teams that are right on the edge trying to make it so that they can sort of get blooded in the tournament and say, you know what, if we win, that's great because that's going to help our chances to get in the NCAA. If we lose, we're definitely going to be out. So they're already playing with that tension and that pressure. When you're in a single elimination tournament, it's pretty much a crapshoot. I don't care if you're the favorite or not.
It really is. I mean, you think of teams that everybody thought, oh my God, this is their year.
Mm-hmm.
C. DePaul, 1980, 1981, and I can think of probably a few more years along the way where they just went in and laid an egg.
Yeah.
And think of a year as I glance down here, looking at the East region, and they talk about a team that's reeking.
Mm-hmm.
Villanova, with a comment, are the Wildcats the team that went 28-3 in the regular season, or the team that lost to Seton Hall in the Big East quarterfinals? Think back to when they when the comment was they played the perfect game.
Oh, when they beat
Georgetown.
Yeah.
When they beat Georgetown. Yeah. And somebody asked me, Raleigh Massimino, who was the head coach, he said, your team went 19-14 during the regular season. You were the lowest seed in the Big East tournament. Yet you never lost a game in the Big East tournament, and you never lost a game in the NCAA tournament and went all the way through. How can you explain this? And he said, well, and he laughed, and he says, I just guess we got hotter than bleep at the right time.
Yeah, well, that's
You
you
know,
know what? That is the perfect explanation.
That is the perfect explanation, because when you described it, and Kevin will be mad at you for calling it a crapshoot, but that's exactly what it is.
Okay.
You never know what's going to happen. And I think that's the beauty of the NCAA tournament.
Oh, that's the
because
big beauty of it.
everybody waits. I think nobody pays unless you're a real basketball junkie. I don't think anybody pays a big amount of attention to college basketball during its season.
No, not at all.
Everybody gets down to this point, and everybody's got to fill out their bracket. And I have my bracket entered in the $1 billion challenge, and if I go perfect, you'll never see me again here after I get my $1 billion from Warren Buffett, because he's backing it.
Oh, well, good luck with your billion,
Yeah.
Did you say?
Billion. If I get a perfect bracket, I win $1 billion.
Oh, well, then it's well worth filling out.
That's right. That's right.
You know, Jim, talking about this, though, because this is always this part of the conversation fascinates me. I start to think about, you're talking about filling out a bracket or people making predictions, and then you talked about.
I figure my bracket will be shot to shreds by about Thursday afternoon.
Sure. Oh, definitely.
You know.
But you talked about Massimino's comment about Villanova's team back then, and I'm thinking to myself, you know what? For anybody to have even a chance to make an intelligent prediction about anything, you have to know a whole lot more about these teams than any of us have the ability to know.
You have to be following it. You
Yeah.
know, you have to be sitting in front of a TV constantly.
You do, and even then, though,
With
you don't know. Now, I could see somebody maybe who travels with the team
Sure.
and gets to know
Sure.
a little bit, gets a feel for the people on the team, and whether they can take, how they react to adversity and things like that. But even constantly watching them, it only shows you part of the picture. I think that the big part of the picture that's not seen, what's the team's personality? How quickly or how well do they bounce back? Do they have character? Those things are not that easily seen on the screen. You have to know the people.
you have to know the people that are involved to see what kind of leadership skills
Yeah.
they have.
Yep.
How much time we got, John? I guess that's it. John
Oh, wow.
just said,
John goes, okay.
that's it.
Hey,
You
guys
clowns
have had enough talk for today.
Yous clowns are done. All right, that's going to wrap it up. We will. We thank you for joining us. We'll be back whenever John lets us back into the building, which we're never quite sure.
Yep.
Thanks for listening, and we will see you soon.
Take care.
You have been listening to Armchair Experts from the John Nevada Broadcast Center on the Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network with Jim Leon and Rich Massaro. This broadcast was directed by John Nevada, edited by Stephen Lehman. Our audio engineer is James Rohde. And the executive producer of Windy City Hometown Entertainment Network is John Shikanda. This broadcast was pre-recorded on Tuesday, March the 18th, the year 2014. Be safe, and thanks for listening.